Texas Secretary of State Jane Nelson, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
I'm delighted.
So, Madam Secretary, your message here to elections officials, you really tried to give them a pep talk.
You're the ones that do all the work. You're where the rubber meets the road. You are the ones that make this election process work.
Yes.
Why do you feel that's necessary?
Yes, it is very important because as Secretary of State, I am responsible for overseeing the election process in Texas. But these people here today are the county election officials that actually administer the elections in each and every one of their counties. It is an underappreciated role. I wanted to tell them face to face how very, very grateful I am for the work they do. I've learned so much more as Secretary of State about how much work they do, how important it is. And yet, when it's done well, people don't take the time to think about thanking them. They go on with their lives. Everybody has busy lives these days, and they go in and they vote. But someone has to be responsible for conducting those elections, for preparing for them, for administering them, for reporting into the state. And those are the county election officials. And I wanted to tell them personally how very, very grateful I am for the work they do. They encounter some really tough challenges that people don't think about. We had wildfires in West Texas during our primary season that could have really, really been horrible for our election process. It was during the primary. And yet they knew what to do. They acted. Elections went smoothly, and they need to be acknowledged for that. Somebody needs to say thank you. This seminar is spending the time to make sure they have the training they need to be prepared for every unusual circumstance. And they do such a beautiful job of coming to this, of learning and taking that back home and executing it in their counties. It was very important that I say thank you. And I think it's very important for the public, your viewers, to understand how hard these people work and how grateful we are for the, if they do their job well, the election process in Texas will go well.
So CBS News has been looking into the turnover rate of elections administrators or county clerks that do that job.
Yes.
And they found in Texas alone, 77 out of 254 counties have lost an elections administrator, somebody who oversees a presidential election since 2020.
Right.
And so they determined that's about 416 years of expertise gone.
Yeah.
And that it could impact 60% of the 18 million registered voters.
Yes.
Talk to me about your concerns for this revolving door.
Right. And that's not, if you look at other states, it's what's going on everywhere. And for a number of reasons, in my opinion, I haven't seen any official survey, but I can tell you it's a very challenging, stressful job. And I think there are things we can do. I know there are things we can do. We are doing things to make sure that those individuals are prepared to, we make sure they have the education they need. We make sure that they have all the tools they need. We're doing a seminar today on stress management. It's a very stressful job. And not only do they need to know how to handle stress, but they need to know there are people out there that for whatever reason are angry about something. And while they may not hear thank yous from people who came and they voted and everything went smoothly and they went on about their lives, there's some people who may have run into a problem, may have had a bad day, but they may have a very legitimate complaint. We need to teach them how to handle that and to understand that there are going to be people with 18 million voters who have a complaint and how to deal with that. So we're helping educate them on dealing with that kind of situation. And I think perhaps the reason that we lost some is that they weren't able to handle that. We're going to make sure they can.
And we've interviewed several people who used to serve in that role. And they say it's the ugliness of the politics. It's the threats. How big of a concern is that? That it's the politics that's making people leave. It's the politics who people who love this job
Right.
no longer find it fun.
Right. Yeah. Well, as a grandmother and a mother, I am very concerned about not just how it affects this situation, but our world. And I will say that social media exacerbates everything. And I used to be a teacher, and my message is: be kind, be respectful. We can disagree, we can, have problems, but our whole world needs to pay attention to being a little kinder and knowing that it is reality today. What we can do is train people on how to deal with that. But we're doing the same thing, by the way, with our teachers, with our nurses, with everybody. The whole world needs to stop and pay attention to be a little kinder and more respectful of each other.
When you talk about training, what are you doing as far as making sure, because of the turnover,
Yes.
is there something additional that you are doing, that your office is providing these elections administrators, so that if there is the revolving door, if there is turnover, what they can do to make sure that nothing is lost, big mistakes don't happen, et cetera?
Yes, yes. And that's one of the reasons we have this seminar that's going on today. We make sure they have all the tools they need, and they know our office is there, ready and willing to help if they need anything at all. We make sure that they have the coping mechanism. This is a new thing for us, is to teach stress management and how to cope. We're making sure that if we do lose someone, and hey, people retire, there are lots of reasons why we lose people, but to make sure that the transition of information is there. We've got a fabulous team here in Austin, Texas, that goes out and educates and works with these county people to make sure that they know not just what tools are available, how to implement them. We also are undergoing a whole new program of educating voters, giving them the tools they need. VoteTexas.gov is a resource for citizens everywhere in Texas to know the answers to some of the questions that may make our county election officials' lives a little easier. Even just something as simple as, okay, if I go vote, what do I need to take with me? Well, it really slows things down if somebody has waited through line, they go to vote, they got there, they don't have what they need. Now, we can accommodate that too, but if they just go to votetexas.gov and look, it tells them exactly what, and there are lots of things you can take with you to go vote. That's just one example of the kind of information we can help provide voters that will make our county election officials' job much easier.
Is there anything that you think, any ideas that you have, does the legislature need to get involved as far as, is it a crime to harass or threaten an election worker, et cetera? Having been in the legislature
Yes, I was in the
yourself.
legislature for 30 years, and one thing I learned was sometimes the things that most need to happen, I couldn't pass a law to make happen. And I wish I could pass a law that would make people be civil and respectful, even when they disagree. And of course, if there's a physical threat, that takes things to a whole nother level. But people just need to start being kind to each other, even when they disagree, even when they're unhappy, even when something goes wrong. Just be kind.
What we are seeing nowadays is the issue of how private is your vote versus accountability and transparency.
Oh boy, and that is a tightrope. I was in the legislature, and I understood, and I do understand now, how very important it is to have transparency, to have accessibility. And the legislature did a great job of passing some laws to make sure that happened. But you need to be careful you don't slip over into providing too much information that would allow the security and privacy of a vote to be voided. And it's a tightrope that we're going to keep paying attention to. People have to know when they go cast a vote, that's private information that will never be provided to outside resources. And it's a tightrope. We're paying a lot of attention to it.
Yeah, your office is made some changes.
Yes, we did. Well, because when some of those laws passed and the transparency efforts were getting a lot of attention, and all the new technologies and everything, there may have been an opportunity, and I think we know how, but we just need to plug those holes. Make sure if there's any way that someone can find out what a person's vote in is, we plug that hole.
Secretary of State Jay Nelson, thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Jack.